We have crossed the border, and in this video, we are going to explore the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Most people would agree this is the better side of the falls. There's so much to do over here, but of course, almost everything costs money. So I'm going to show you the best things we paid for and if we think it's worth the price. Along the way, I'll try to sprinkle in some tips and maybe a little history as well. I brought some family along to help us see if the Canadian side really is better than the American side, or if it's just a big tourist trap. Some super quick geography. Niagara Falls is located on the border of the state of New York in the US and the province of Ontario in Canada. The falls were created by the Niagara River, flowing north from Lake Erie and dumping out into Lake Ontario. According to NiagaraParks.com, Niagara Falls has moved 7 miles over the past 12,500 years and are possibly some of the fastest moving waterfalls in the world. Niagara Falls is collectively made up of 3 waterfalls. First is the American Falls, and then the smallest of the 3 is Bridal Veil, and the big boy at the end is Horseshoe Falls, also sometimes referred to as the Canadian Falls. I'm starting this off by first writing the undisputed #1 must-do attraction when visiting Niagara, and that is riding a boat into Horseshoe Falls. For the American side, it's the iconic Maid of the Mist, but on the Canadian side, it's Niagara City Cruises by Hornblower. I'll talk about that long name in a minute, but for now, I'm simply going to refer to it as the Hornblower. There are different level passes that the park sells to give discounts on some of the attractions, but none of the passes cover the boat ride. The Hornblower costs $33.50 Canadian. I'll go over the pass in a minute, but I don't want to bore you with numbers too early, so let's get on this boat, or cruise, as Canada calls it. For a great view of the American Falls, I would suggest finding a spot on the left side of the ship, but if you really just want to get wet and feel the power of Horseshoe Falls, try to get a spot right up front or up the stairs on the second level. But if you don't get a good spot, don't worry, people will pretty much immediately move once the boat gets up to the falls. It's pretty intense standing out there. For anyone trying to stay dry, the downstairs deck has glass windows on the interior portion so you can still get a stellar view. Very quick interruption. I will pick up the pace after the Hornblower. We got to experience a lot of fun stuff, so this video is a bit longer than normal. But if you find yourself enjoying it, we would love for you to subscribe. We are a very small channel, and we truly appreciate everyone that subscribes or leaves a nice comment. Okay, back to the Hornblower. The ponchos did keep our clothes pretty dry, but I can't say the same for our shoes. Once the captain got us up to Horseshoe Falls, we sat there for what felt like forever, just getting dumped on. It was honestly so much fun. I don't know what it is about being on a boat, but we love waving anytime we pass another boat. Those people also must love waving because they're waving back. As we are getting off, I looked around on the outside of the ship to get a picture of the name, but I saw Niagara City Cruises by Hornblower. I vividly remember Hornblower being far more prominent back in 2014 when I first got to see Niagara Falls. So when I started to do some research to see if this is a Mandela effect or if they changed the name, I fell down a completely different rabbit hole. But yes, they did change their name in 2021. It was to advertise the other attractions. Lame. If you have ever ridden the Hornblower, I mean the Niagara City Cruises by Hornblower, let me know down in the comments what you think of the name change. But while I was doing my research, I also found out that the Maid of the Mist operated from both sides of the Niagara River for over 150 years until it was announced at the end of 2013 season that the Maid of the Mist lost its contract with the Canadian government, and a new company, Hornblower, was taking over operations in 2014. And then Hornblower turned around and tried to sue the Maid of the Mist for continuing operations on the American side. But they lost that lawsuit, so now both companies operate somewhat amicably. Although both experiences are pretty much the same, the Maid of the Mist has so much more history, and it's just a more iconic name. And Jim and Pam even got married on it back in 2009, so I'm going to have to give the win to the American side for this one. But you'll pretty much get the same experience on either boat. I just have some nostalgia for the Maid of the Mist, so I'm a bit biased. But what do you think? Is it worth $33.50 Canadian? Let me know down in the comments. Looking at the package deals that Niagara Parks offers, at first glance it seems like a good deal. But none of these deals include the hornblower. We almost bought the classic pass, but realized we also wanted to do the Whirlpool and incline, and we didn't really care to go see Niagara's Fury because we had already seen what I'm assuming to be a similar video on the American side back in 2014. So we opted to just pay as we went, and I will add everything up we spent on the attractions after I show them. I'll start with the incline railway as it was right behind our hotel. If you stay up on this end of Niagara Falls, the incline is by far the fastest and most convenient way to get down to the visitor center and the main overlook for the waterfalls. It's $3.50 Canadian each way, or you can purchase an all-day pass for $8. We bought our tickets at the ticket booth, but you can also purchase them online. If you buy one of these passes the park offers online, you can use the barcode on the receipt to ride the incline down to pick up your physical pass. If you opt not to use the railway, you have the WeGo bus for $13 Canadian all day, or you can drive down, but parking is about $35 per day. And lastly, you can walk, but the walk is a long one, about half an hour each way or 1.7 kilometers. There was no line to get on, and we were able to grab some front row seats for the descent. It's a very convenient and easy way to get down to the falls. It's just not as exciting as we might have hoped for, but overall, I would say it's worth the money, especially if you have kids or don't pay for the bus. We had some family come along with us, and the young ones were very excited for this.
Yeah, we got a wave.
Look at how deep that is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see those swings. Kind of gonna bounce off.
That was bumpier than I thought it would be.
And it wasn't, it kind of like went fast and slow at times. Like it was kind of jerky.
Yeah, get it from down. The incline takes you straight down to the entrance to the Table Rock Visitor Center, where we found a few gift shops and restaurants, as well as some of the entrances and ticket booths to the park attractions. There is the Table Rock House Restaurant, Journey Behind the Falls, Niagara's Fury, and then down the stairs and outside is the Table Rock patio. I enjoy the details on the ceiling, but we didn't explore the visitor center much. We went straight through to the overlook. For me, this is one of the best overlooks in Niagara Falls. Not necessarily for the view, as you can't quite get a full view of Horseshoe Falls. You need to walk a bit for that. But because you can stand right next to the very edge of the waterfall as 681,750 gallons of water rush by you every second and crash 167 feet below. The sheer power of this waterfall is incredible, yet standing right there on the edge watching it all flow over is oddly peaceful and surreal. But it's also very crowded here, and really most everywhere we went in Canada was far more crowded than the American side. But I haven't been to the American side since pre-pandemic days, so it could very well be just as crowded over there. The Canadian side being more crowded does make sense though. All of the attractions on the American side are great, but much of the Canadian equivalent are just slightly better. Like over on Goat Island, the American overlook for Horseshoe Falls is just a few extra feet back from the edge, and those few feet make the difference. It's an incredible feeling standing right next to Horseshoe Falls. From the Table Rock Overlook and Visitor Center, it is about a 1.2 kilometer walk to get to the entrance to the hornblower, but the WeGo bus frequents both stops, so you don't have to walk. The walk is really nice and goes directly next to the river the whole way. The path also goes by the power plant that's 100 or so feet below. Also, I can recommend being somewhere down this path once the sun sets, because every night during the summer, Niagara shoots off fireworks for about 7 minutes over the American Falls. The further up the pathway from Horseshoe Falls, the closer to the fireworks you'll be. Our next stop is about 5 kilometers away from Table Rock, at the Whirlpool Aero Car. There's free parking here, or you can take the bus. I'll just say this now, the bus goes everywhere I'm going to show you in this video. The bus is also a lot cheaper than most of the parking we saw in Niagara Falls. The Whirlpool Aero Car is a cable car that is suspended over the Niagara Whirlpool, and the attraction took its first journey in 1916. There were significant upgrades and modernizations done in 1984, but the cable car was left untouched to preserve the history of the ride. But then in 2023, the car was also refurbished and the roof was added. The cable car is suspended 200 feet above the Niagara Whirlpool, and you will cross 3,500 feet all the way to America and back. You actually cross the border 4 times while on the ride. Once you reach the other side, the operator ushers everyone to walk forward to switch sides of the cart so that everyone can get a good view of the Class 6 certified deadly rapids just up the river from the Whirlpool.
In front of you, we don't have a lot of walking room. The cars stop for about 20 seconds.
Push them.
She keeps pushing you.
Pushing, keep pushing.
Yeah, it normally takes like over halfway to get around.
We're there.
All of that water going over Horseshoe Falls is squeezed into this narrow gorge, creating the rapids. And then the river abruptly switches directions, creating the whirlpool below. The price per adult is 19 Canadian dollars, and the ride only lasts about 10 minutes, roughly 5 minutes each way. This is a fun attraction, but it's a bit short. It would be nice if they could work out a way to get off on the American side for a bit. Also, they packed us in like a Tokyo subway, so half the ride back we were just shuffling forward. Paul says it's worth the $20. And you can come here for free and get a good view of both the whirlpool and rapids from the observation deck. No need to ride the cable car. Over on the American side, there are hiking trails to take you down to the whirlpool, but it is illegal to get in the water or even get a boat into the water. The only exception are the whirlpool jet boats that run upriver to the whirlpool. The hiking is free and you can spend as much time as you like, so that is something I will have to check out next time we visit. For our next attraction, Paul and I opted to take the 1-kilometer walk up the street to the Whitewater Walk. Mostly because parking was not free there, but also because we wanted to get a bit more exercise in. The sidewalk is a bit narrow for a modern town, but there is a nice outdoor bathroom along the way if needed. After passing by Fork U, we found a shopping center that embodied everything we imagine Canada to be. We've got the Mounties, we've got a moose, we've got a random canoe, but we resisted the urge to go in and kept moving. But then just next door is this Buddhist temple that sidetracked us for a bit. But the gates were locked, so onto the Whitewater Walk.
I like how this spot right here is a 15-minute walk.
We started by grabbing our $19 tickets at the gift shop and then rode a very old-feeling elevator down 230 feet to the bottom of the gorge. Exiting the elevator, we were funneled into a pretty chilly tunnel running out to the rapids. The tunnel opens up to a nice covered patio with various plaques dotted around telling the history and geology of the Niagara River. While I was busy reading the plaques, Paul was busy attempting to swallow the whole river. Just up the river, you can also see the Niagara Whirlpool Bridge crossing from Canada to America. The bridge is only accessible by Nexus members. It's for people that have been pre-screened and speeds up the border crossing process. We stayed here a while, admiring the danger zone and getting some pictures before moving on down the boardwalk. The entire boardwalk is only about 1/4 of a mile, or 0.4 kilometers, and runs down the river towards the cable car that we were just at. As we strolled down the boardwalk, I was busy trying to get some nice photos of the rapids while Paul was in full dad mode, checking the integrity of the wooden walkway. The boardwalk is very short, so it only took a few minutes to get to the first of the 2 viewing platforms. This one has the best photo spot, and you can get pretty close to a little calmer appearing water. As I'm watching the videos we took, these rapids seem as scary as ever, But while we were standing right on the edge of the river, the rapids didn't seem as crazy as I would have thought Class 6 certified deadly rapids would be, but they are deceiving. I must not be the only one though, because the Niagara website even mentions its deceiving nature. It's what's under the surface that's so dangerous. There are steep underwater drop-offs and sharp rocks that can really hurt you. The water is rushing by at up to 48 kilometers per hour, making it almost impossible to fight the current. The sign shows the waves being up to 5 meters tall. So be careful, don't be jumping over the railing. Speeding up a bit, we finished the walk to the last viewing point, which was partially closed, but there is a covered pavilion with infographics about the wildlife in the area and the geology of the gorge. Although this attraction is a pretty short walk, you can stay down here for as long as you'd like, so enjoy the nature, sneak in some food if you want. I think this is definitely worth the money. But we cut this stop short because we were getting hungry, so let's go over what we spent versus the cost of the pass. In total, not including the boat ride, we spent 46 Canadian per person, not including tax. We also wanted to do Journey Behind the Falls, which cost $25, but we just ran out of time. We only had 2 days and we wanted to explore the city as well. But even if we did manage to get everything on our list checked off, we would have still been saving money compared to the pass. The Niagara Falls Pass includes most of the exciting attractions, but also includes the power plant, which I hear is interesting, but we were looking for excitement. The pass also includes the Niagara's Fury video, as well as a 2-day pass on both the Incline and the WeGo bus system. The most expensive, Adventure Pass Plus, includes all of the above plus butterflies, the floral show house, an extra day on the transportation, and a shuttle to Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is a cute town north of Niagara Falls, but that would have been a whole separate video. You might have noticed we also did not include the price of the bus, and that's because we stayed at the Marriott Falls View Hotel, which included a resort fee. The resort fee included 2 bus passes as well as a whole bunch of other stuff we didn't use.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's coming down.
Wow. Our hotel also sold different packages for the park, including a tour guide to accompany you on the ship and through Niagara Falls. The price was $149 US, so we did not look into it. But before coming to Niagara Falls, I would suggest calling various hotels to see if there is anything included in your stay. If the price is right, I would totally recommend the Marriott Falls View. It's a little far from the main tourist street, but the views are incredible.
I care about that one. Hey, that one is mean.
They're biting each other.
I know.
The main reason we chose to spend a bit of extra money on a hotel right by the falls is to see them lit up at night. We have been here twice, but never at night, so it was a bucket list item we had to check off. I'm going to go through this quick though because it's difficult to film at night, but this is one of the coolest things about Niagara Falls. After sprinting to the incline, we made it to the bottom with just enough time to find a spot by the railing before the fireworks started going off. This was probably the most crowded Niagara Falls was all day. But for good reason. This was one of our favorite things of the whole trip. Fireworks start at 9 o'clock and last about 7 minutes. After the fireworks, the crowds cleared out and we were able to get some good pictures in front of the falls. The last bus leaves at 11:30 p.m. and the last incline leaves at 11, so if you come here, make sure you watch the time. Okay, now let's get to the food. The food is a bit pricey. Not only are you in Canada where it is a bit more expensive, but it's also a tourist town, so expect to pay a bit more for the food. You can't go to Canada without starting your morning with Tim Hortons. Timmy Ho's is a Canadian staple and is far superior to the Dunkin' Donuts we have in the States. For lunch, I should mention that Niagara Falls has a revolving restaurant called Skylon Tower. But after reading some reviews and checking the prices, we decided to go somewhere a bit cheaper and more familiar. We still wanted to get a good view of the falls, so we went to IHOP located on the 26th floor of the Falls View Tower Hotel. But even here, we were a little shocked by the prices. Paul ordered French toast with fruit on it, and it was $36. And this was one of the cheaper items on the menu. But we did get the views we wanted, and our waitress was very nice and helpful. She mentions how she frequently crosses the border to shop or to get food because the prices are a bit better in the States. So I'm going to give an honorable mention to a restaurant down in Buffalo, New York. The night before we crossed the border, we stayed in Buffalo and tried a pizza place that has become pretty famous within the city. Imperial Pizza specializes in Buffalo-style pizza, which has a bit of a sweeter sauce, and it was covered in cheese and had cupped pepperonis. No part of this pizza is even remotely healthy, nor will you feel like moving for a few hours afterwards, but it was worth it. It took about 2 minutes after eating before we passed out for a nice afternoon nap before heading out to explore Buffalo that evening. Imperial Pizza. Grab it before crossing the border. You won't be disappointed. Let's get into dessert though, because that's where this town shines. As with most tourist towns, there are dessert shops and ice cream parlors all over, and we need our daily sweet treat. This is where we are really going to get into why so many people say this is a tourist trap. We're heading down to Clifton Hill, roughly a mile from our hotel. Down here we've got a go-kart track, a Ripley's Believe It or Not, a rainforest cafe. Oh, and an upside-down house. Yep, that's a tourist trap. Our first night we came down here for just one purpose. We wanted to try a Canadian Beavertail. A Beavertail is fried dough that's stretched out to resemble, yep, you guessed it, a tail of a beaver. I guess you could say it's similar to a funnel cake, but it was way better. You can get whatever toppings you like on it. I've even heard of people getting poutine on top. But we opted to split the avalanche flavor, which is cheesecake and toffee bits with caramel sauce, and it was amazing. But also very sticky, so bring a wet wipe. It is very obvious that this part of Niagara Falls is a tourist trap, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I love all the excitement and commotion this street brings, so much so that we return the next evening as well. Let me quickly address this beautiful sunset before moving on. It almost looks fake, but I assure you this was how the sky looked. One of the craziest sunsets I have ever seen. But I love streets like this, and we almost actually always save money. There's so many things to do, so we end up walking around to see what is the best thing for us to spend money on until we inevitably tire ourselves out and go back to the hotel without spending a dime. Each attraction is competing with the next to see who can be the loudest, so it really is a sensory overload just walking down the street. I particularly love this horror music being pumped out across the hill. As we stood here admiring the beautiful sunset and listening to the wax figure of Taylor Swift serenade us, I couldn't help but think, are tourist traps even bad? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Also, how crazy is this sunset? We inevitably found ourselves at the bottom of the hill, and instead of walking back up, we decided to grab the bus to head back to our hotel. But just as I thought I had made it through without spending any money, across the street was the Hard Rock Cafe gift shop. I went in to see how much a shirt would be, and realized even the cheap ones were $50. But that's $50 Canadian. Only a fool would spend that much money on a t-shirt.
But hey, what can I say? Exploring the course feels so alive. Whirlpools twist like a thrilling dive. Riding the funicular, hearts on fire. Up and down, we never tire.
Alright, babe. What time is it?
It is 11:40. Actually, it's
Ooh, that's really good.
almost a quarter to G.